Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom, and I am joined here by Michael Slate and Blaze Vela. We are around the globe here for the Global Football League draft for season one. What's up, gentlemen?
Not nearly enough. It's going to be an amazing draft. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. Um, the commensurate season of the G.F.L. It's
Alrighty,
going to be a
good
good one.
afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom.
no,
Absolutely, yeah,
definitely.
definitely looking forward to it.
joined
Oh,
here
sorry,
by
Blaze, go
Michael
ahead.
Slate
No
And
problem at all.
Blaze Vela, we
We're
are around
looking
the
forward
globe.
to it, and thanks you
Here
guys for
for
doing
the
this.
Global Football League draft for season one. Yeah.
So
What's up, gentlemen? So just a quick little overview
Not
of who you
nearly
got here
enough.
behind
It's
the
gonna be
desk. Again, like I said, my name is Tom Box, undrafted free agent here. You got Michael Slate, another undrafted free agent, and Blaze, who is the league owner as well as the owner of the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken, on that team, right, Blaze?
I am not the owner of the Chargers. There are no owners, so that's one thing that's different. There's basically captains. They're kind of just like the mom and pop of the league. But no, actually, this would be Cam and Jeff.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there you have it. And as I'm sure everybody's aware, these leagues and things like this cannot go on without our sponsors. So we're going to take a moment to give a little bit of a showcase to our sponsors. Go ahead, Mike.
And there really is a great long list of sponsors this season. A really good turnout for a new football league. The list of sponsors starts with Blueberry.
You got Fameshed
You got E. Marie,
and Cosmic Dust,
the Boardwalk,
Synergy,
Noche,
Spill the Tea,
Lace Up,
What's Radio,
and the Joy Theater. A big thanks to the sponsors. We're going to have lots of details about what they are, who they are, what they sell, where you can find their products, and all kinds of more information on that throughout the course of the season as we have different sponsored games. So a big thanks and shout out to all of you sponsors. And if any other people out there listening and would like to sponsor future seasons, contact one of the league owners and they'll get that set up for you.
You can also get all the information down at the Welcome Center for the G.F.L. All of the note cards and landmarks and everything is down there. So they've done a wonderful job of getting all that information out available for everybody that wants to go check it out. So without further ado, so we're on a little bit of a time crunch here. So we're going to try and go through these topics fast, but we're going to try and get, a good bit of information out there. We're going to talk about the teams. We're going to talk about the draft order. We're going to give kind of a draft analysis. And then we're going to go into a little bit of an in-depth team analysis, kind of going through the teams and their core. So I think the first way to start off, we can just talk about the draft order. Blaze, you want to kind of go through about how you organized the draft order, how that came apart? Or
Yeah.
to pass, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole point of me making this league was pretty much I wanted to spread the talent out. So the basic way of setting this up is we decided we're going to go with 6 teams, and you were allowed to bring 4 people on as your core. That way you don't have, the potential of having super teams right out the gate, and then everybody else will be drafted through, today's draft. So once we got, the overwhelming amount of people that, decided to sign up, and I appreciate everybody, the draft was then done randomly. So I streamed that about a week ago, maybe a little bit more than a week ago, and everything was completely random, so people couldn't, bitch and moan that it was, unfair or whatnot. So when it all came down to it, it ended up being the Scorpions who got the number 1 pick, followed by the Unicorns, then the Chargers, then the Ravens, then the 49ers, and then following up with the last pick, the Wildcats. But with that last pick, that's actually a pretty prime position because this draft will be a snake draft. So they will also have, the 6th pick and then the 7th pick. So they'll have 2 picks pretty much right in a row. And they'll be able to get some pretty good players as there's a lot of talent still on the board.
And I definitely love this format of selecting a core four and then feeding straight into a draft priority to spread that talent out. As somebody who's been on both sides of the super teams and the teams that are struggling against the super teams, I think this is the best way to keep the season engaging throughout. Um, on either side of the board, when the wins are coming too easy or you're struggling to get anything done, it just gets tedious after a long duration. So I think this is going to really be a strong way to finish out this league or this season of first season of the league strong.
Yeah, definitely. Because you've got to really you've got to weigh the option of when it's your time to draft and it's your turn to pick your next player. You've got to weigh that option of, okay, do I want to draft a skilled player and a player for a specific position, or do I want to draft a friend so I can make sure I play with a friend? So it's like that decision that you have to make. Do you want to build your team of people that'll be in those skilled positions? You know, whereas you may not be able to play with a specific friend, you know, but you choose somebody into
Well,
sorry, I
another
just saw
benefit,
chat.
though, of this season in particular is the number of people that have entered into the draft as well as the core fours for each team. We're looking at 6 teams instead of 10, 12, 13, 15. The high number of teams we've had that have barely been able to fill out their rosters. If the numbers all crunch out right, we're looking at roughly 13 players per team for each of those 6 teams. So you can have a good mix between your friendship players and your skill players, but it's all going to come down to draft priority. Um, Blaze, if you would talk a little bit about trades. Is there going to be trades? I know there's equal value trades. So explain a little bit on what that means for those tuned in.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, a person on each player is allowed to be traded twice. That's the maximum they're allowed to be traded, because I feel like after that, it's kind of the player is the problem, and it's not necessarily the team that's the issue at that point. So I kind of wanted to limit that to, so it doesn't get crazy that we have all these trades. Trading, like I said, a person can be traded twice in a season, but it has to be for equal value. I mean, I'm gonna be overall the decision maker about it, but I'll definitely take feedback from people, veteran that's been there, throughout the years, that know kind of the players that are involved with it, and I just kind of want to keep this equal, for all teams. So it's pretty much the way I had it set up like that. And yes, I have Sesame Street on the background. But but yeah, and then the other thing is that trades can happen up to the halfway mark of the regular season. Once the halfway mark is hit, there will be no longer any trades allowed.
Now, are trades going to be strictly player for player? Or are we talking multiple players for a one-player trade, or future draft picks for future subsequent seasons of the GFL? Are those on the board?
For this season, we're going to do player for player. That definitely interested in seeing what the community looks like in season two, where we could kind of look at that and see if we want to do future draft picks, if you want to do, it's hard just to do it by talent, just to make sure that it's even. But yeah, I definitely think that's something we could look through for future seasons. But this year, it will be person talent for talent.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification. Tom, why don't we go into a little bit about the core makeup of the Scorpions, the team that's going to have first draft choice on the day?
All righty. So your core on the Scorpions is going to be Cub Bears, who is Chris Bears, as well as Odith. We all know Odith. Following Creven and Bibbity, Montana resident.
Yeah, that'd be Dante. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
very interesting core four. I mean, we do have interesting choices, but it's definitely the makings of a powerhouse team, depending on how they draft. They do have draft priority. I'll be very curious to see how they go, because they've got those great hands from Dante, great field awareness. They've got an amazing lineman on both sides of
Yep.
the ball with Odith. Chris Bears has proven his own as well in those secondary skill positions, as well as a receiver. And they've got Creven. I don't know if Creven's going to be reverting back to his old way of switching back to he kind of toned it back back from the quarterback skill position early on and kind of drifted to the line. So I'll be curious to see if he decides to stick to that line or move into positions as needed. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how that develops over the season. Chris has been at many of the pickups and stepping into that quarterback role and really refining that talent. So it's going to be a really interesting dynamic to see these four players. Dante, I'm sure is sticking to that receiving role, and then Otis.
Yeah, I don't see Dante
doing anything other than line would be a crime because he's just a monster on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Odith is the person to contend with. If you're a lineman, Odith is the name that you know, and when you're going up against him, it's one of those like, oh shit, it's Odith. So he's definitely cemented his place in the in the lineman kind of mindset. So yeah. It'll definitely be interesting on who takes up the reins of quarterback, because Crevin in previous leagues has gone to multiple Super Bowls. He's got multiple wins. And as you said, Chris has been stepping up into the quarterback position quite a bit. So it'll definitely be interesting to see who does take those reins. And the other two, like you said, they're not going.
And the big thing is, with such a powerhouse core four, no matter where they end up sliding into positions, we're talking about first pick. So they're going to be able to round out with a core team of 5 and really establish some control early on in the boards. So
it'll be definitely interesting on who they choose. If because you've got Odith already as a very, very solid lineman. So with that, I mean, they could build a line around Odith of mediocre lineman positions and then really go for receivers. So I suspect
my guess is they're going to start strong with another receiver to complement Dante, somebody that's also going to be a good route runner on the opposite side of the field. So they've got hands that they could focus on both sides. Then they'll fill out maybe their line next, and then get the receiving core to fill into the slot or wherever else.
So I just got one interesting tidbit. Crevin and Odith are both playing line only on the Scorpions.
And that's kind of what I was suspecting. Crevin settled into the line last season, and that's kind of what he focused on. So
I bet all my money on they're going to be going for a receiver for that first pick. They've got 2 solid linemen, so why would you waste that first round pick on another lineman when you can grab a solid receiver because you've got first pick of the entire pool.
So moving into the unicorns, we're talking second pick overall is going to be the unicorns, led by Gunny. Gunny's spent a lot of time, under center, so I would imagine he's going to be QBing. They got Greg Stella, who's shown off some hands, and Veronica, who is, if there was anybody in the league to contend with the beast mode status of Odith when it comes to line, V has had ferocious seasons on both sides of the ball as a lineman as well. And Jinx, who's got a lot of experience, she settled into receiving, I think, 3 seasons back. She only gets better as each season goes on. So, they've got a decent core there as well. Definitely not one to slouch on, especially going into second overall pick.
Yeah, they've definitely got their pick on. The pool is deep. And there is a lot of talent in that draft pool for them to be taking their second pick from and not stacking, but adding to, the core that they already have. They'll be able to pick out, if they decide to grab, a lineman or a wide receiver. It kind of all depends on who's going to be taking the snaps and how they're going to fill out that 4. But I want to guess that they're probably going to go for a receiver on this one.
They might. I haven't really looked at the list to see who they've played with. Like, there's such a vast list of draftables to see who they've played with in the past, who they synergize with. One of V's biggest specialties is she is an excellent chase down artist when it comes to containment. So when she's on that outside, she is really good at closing that gap and tackling if she's got somebody working opposite her that's pushing them her way. It's a really excellent 1-2 punch, and she's a really good finisher. So going towards maybe a lineman she's worked with in the past to help close that gap could be a good first move, but it's really up in the air. That core 4 have worked with so many other players in the draftables list that there's no telling who they're going to pick.
Yeah, they absolutely have. That was
I was about to say I have a feeling that they might go with a lineman just to solidify since we already have two wide receivers, possibly solidifying that line, getting another star caliber type of lineman to protect Gunny.
That'd be more what I would lean towards as well. But surprises happen in every draft of every season of every sport. So I'm sure there's going to be some curveballs that leave our jaws on the floor. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
absolutely looking forward to seeing who their choice is. So, moving to the third team, you've got the Chargers. Um, Honestly, this is a team makeup that all three of us on this panel have pretty good
Hey,
knowledge of all four players. You've got Cameron Cora,
Tom,
who
quit schmoozing our other host here. The great Blaze Vela. So many of you guys
yeah,
have heard the coined phrase. Pasta coined it
he's
many
good.
seasons back. That it didn't matter who you were or what you did. You were good, but you were no Blaze Vela. And Blaze Vela
That's
is
right.
one of the core players on the Chargers, as well as Hefe, who is touted as one of the top receivers in the league. And then you got the dual hat threat receivers. He's got the hands, he's got the eye, he's got the throwing. Cameron Cora, everybody knows him. I've played with him many seasons.
Yep.
And then Matt
If you
Asadar,
don't
somebody
know
I've
him, you've been under a rock.
Matt Asadar is a dual sport threat. If you guys didn't know, he is a football player and SL professional wrestler. So you never know what you're going to see from this core four. This is a very solid core four of players that have a lot of experience working with each other. So you're coming in with synergy, and they've had a lot of teams or a lot of players in the draftables list that they played with over the course of their
Absolutely.
very illustrious Second Life football careers that they have to choose from as well. So I couldn't even begin to guess who they're going to draft first or what position they're going to draft first. I'm sure that they've had a lot of discussion on this. Planning is something that they definitely all do and do well. So whoever it is, it's going to be a methodical choice.
Yeah, it's not going to be one of those choices where they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. This is definitely going to be a well thought out, probably a week long process of trying to figure out who they're going to grab.
Well, they only get 2
Um,
minutes. They don't get a full week.
well, they've had a week long to prepare for their
I'm
two
just playing.
minutes.
Um, Moving on to the Ravens. Ravens will be the next selection. Now, the Ravens is an interesting team. There's a few names that I don't even recognize on this list. So we've got a team established by Andrew Rice, a SL football veteran, and I'm not familiar with Dirt Brain or Really on that team.
Neither
Clooney,
am I.
I think I've seen around the league, but I mean it's a questionable, And just a couple of seasons back, a few seasons back, Creven shouldered leading a team and brought an entire squad, mostly
Oh,
of
Dynasty.
unknowns.
Yep,
And out of nowhere, this ragtag team of brand new faces went on to win the Super Bowl. So you
absolutely.
never know what to expect from new
And
names
it's
and new faces.
and it's really great seeing names that I don't recognize and other people do not recognize because that means the word has gotten out there and there are people that are brand new into this season who we don't know them from Adam to Eve and so it's exciting and I know it is for you as well, Blaze, seeing these new names kind of popping up. That means the reach and the desire is still there for football. So you know it's got to make you feel really good to be able to bring in new talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I've been kind of blown away with. It's just been over a month since I, even announced that I was going to do this, and just the overwhelming amount of old veterans who I never thought would I'd ever see log into Second Life or be playing football again, signing up. And then, I mean, we have somewhere I think between 10 to 15 new people who have never played football before. Some of those players I've actually talked to have not don't even know what really about the sport of football. They'll be from, a different part of the world or whatnot, but they just, they're into gaming and they just want to give it a shot, and they've been coming to pickups. They've been doing great. As far as the Ravens go, just so if I give my 2 cents with them, Andrew Rice is going to be their quarterback this season, from what I understand. And Andrew has been putting in the work at the pickups. He's there every single day, along with Dan, and also Dirt. So they've been definitely getting better, and they're definitely going to be a team that's going to surprise people this season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
for
looking
these new
forward to seeing
players,
them.
these 15 new names that have never set foot on an SL football field. Um, the first season I played was CFL season one. I mean, I played SL football previous, but that was the first organized season that I played. And as a football fan that it does enjoy the sport, I love it. There was just something magical about running out of that locker room onto a field with, this team of players that I'd bonded with leading into the season, seeing, spectators in the crowd, having commentators announcing the game, referees running along the sides. There was just something spectacular about that moment that just makes you feel just important for a glimmer, just a little brief glimmer of time. Like there's just this sensation of wow when that happens. Tom, what was your first time running out on the field like?
It was very similar. So I came in CFL season two, with Ball Dev's team, the Falcons at the time, and I can remember walking out on my first game, seeing all the people in the stadium, the referees, the commentators, hearing them talking, about the team, and then you hear your name for the first time, being commentated about, and you're like, and they're just talking like, this is a brand new player, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it gives you kind of that awe. So you know, coming into this with a brand new team, with new players, and I really hope that they kind of get the same kind of awe that we got to experience.
Blazy, I don't know if you're going to remember back far enough to your first season and first moments on the field because you are, by all intents and purposes, an old timer when it comes to organized Second Life football seasons. But if you can, like, what was the first experience like, and how refined has it gotten since then? And have there been those moments throughout your time playing?
Yeah, I mean, I came in towards the middle of the first. I didn't start right in the beginning of the first football season ever, but I came towards the middle, and yeah, I mean, just I was actually introduced by Matt Asadar and Nick Renegade. If people remember that name, then you have played football for a very long time. But yeah, I was introduced. They were playing on the Giants at the time, and they wanted to see if I just wanted to try it out. And I actually went on there as a wide receiver. And I remember playing at first, being intimidated. Like by all intents and purposes, I'm a gamer. Like I play that, but like this was something completely different. Like I would go on Second Life normally just to like fuck around and not really do much of anything on here. And now I'm actually going onto a field which I was a lot bigger than I expected it to be. But at that point in time, the systems were very simple. Everybody ran the same. It was a mess, but I mean, it introduced this system that we currently are using. And there's been other systems that have come and gone, but so far this has been the best system. Even though there obviously are issues with this, we see that our pickup fields, but I mean, it is. It's definitely something that when you play football in here, it kind of gets you. Like it kind of brings everybody together, and the feeling you feel when you first score a touchdown the first time, when you make a tackle, is something pretty cool.
It certainly is. And we've got this core of new players that are going to get to experience. I'm a little jealous because they're going to get to experience it for the first time. Now, rolling back to talking about those new players coming into the league and just dominating, let's get into the next team of the draft order. The 49ers, we have some names on here that swept in with Krevin in that first season and just laid on the herd, Tom. Let's hear it.
Definitely, these guys. These guys, they came in. Nobody knew who they were. If I'm not mistaken, Baldev brought these gentlemen in and brought them to the league at that time, and things just skyrocketed. So we'll start the top of the list here on their core with Skinner Sky Tower. I mean, all around, Skinner's just that quarterback that just can pretty much do everything he needs to do.
He's got
Um,
the reflexes. He's got the
yeah,
eye. He's a QB. He settled into the QB this season after he played with Krevin. He had been kind of tinkering with it a little bit during that season, gone in as a backup a few times, but he really refined his craft in the season to follow. So, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt on anybody's mind that Skinner's going to be going in as the at least primary quarterback for the 49ers. But he's definitely a dual threat. He's got the hands, he's got the eye, he's got the touch. Um, it's one of the best 50-50 receivers or secondary members that you could ask for. So very
That's
reliable
right.
and a powerhouse player by himself, but he's got to round it out three other players that he's got in his core that
Well,
make them a
it's funny that you
dangerous
mention
team.
it's funny that you mentioned 1v1s and moonballs because the next person on this list, the self-proclaimed moonball master, it's going to be Alf.
It's true. That is
The
true.
first Alf top hat. Alf has
Throw a
been
moonball.
yeah moonball. So he's the guy that came in and with this whole group and just everybody was just kind of shocked at how this entire team came together and Alf being a prime piece to that. I'm not sure what exactly he's going to be playing. I have gone up against him online a few times, and he's definitely a threat. He's definitely a damn good lineman. He's a phenomenal receiver. So as you say, that dual threat, triple threat, kind of type of player. Alf kind of rounds it off on all aspects of that.
Now on the
Just don't let
topic
him
of,
throw.
on the topic of that, we'll transition just briefly before we continue their team analysis. Blaze, are there rules against miking up this season? Because if not, Alpha's going to be a threat when he does that too. Because he's going to be a major distraction to everybody on the
I
team on it.
Go ahead, Blaze.
Yeah, I mean, the way the whole point of this league is to try to regrow the community and whatnot and have the toxicity down. Not only Alf. Alf is definitely one of the people who loves to troll. I love, JJ Watt. Like he's all there and everything. He's funny as hell, but yeah, you're not gonna get penalized for it. We are if you continuously do it, then yeah.
So
But
light
You'll
trash
get
talk
warned.
allowed.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you'll get warned.
yeah, it's more of a warning. Like I really want the captains to be the ones on mic, just
He's
to kind of keep it. I know he's a captain per se, if he is, but like more like the wide receiver, not the wide receiver, so the
right.
quarterback, and if there's a kicker and whatnot.
All right. Okay, moving on.
So, third person on the core, it's got to be Mr. Extraordinary Resident, which I believe is that Angelo? I can't remember whom that is. Okay, that is
It is
Angelo.
indeed Angelo.
Gotcha. So sometimes the display names and the avatar names, I get confused. I'm old, but talking about well-rounded players, you got Angelo coming in. Um, though I haven't seen Angelo on the line. I could be mistaken though. It's been a while since I've seen him play. Um, but just another back.
Yeah,
Go my
definitely another
brain fart.
solid section.
There we go. That's the word I was looking for.
Transitioning into Jaden's spot. Many of you guys know Jaden. He's had like when I say on seasons and off seasons, his off season is better than most players on est seasons. So like it's one of those things where you either look at him as a threat or you look at him as an extreme threat. There's really no other version of Jaden as a receiver. So I mean, this is at least a pair of hands. We'll see what Angelo transitions into. But I mean, we've got some very, very good receiving core already. And any of these players can transition into the line if they need to, into the secondary if they need to. And I've even seen Alf, pick up the old pigskin and hurl them balls down the field as a quarterback from time to time. So, I mean, there are many options on how they can play. They might just build a dynamic team of players that can fit into any role and just keep people guessing from game to game. On that topic of sliding people into any role, are there going to be as strict or structured rules on transitioning linemen into the games as there have been in previous seasons? But previously you had to announce a line change and had to have a set structured number of players that were designated as a lineman in order to move them into that role.
No, so there's not going to be anything that you need to, either call a timeout or anything like that. And actually, what we're going to allow this year is that if you have multiple shapes, like say for I know past leagues, if a wide receiver, because there is that shorter does have a little bit of a speed boost. If you do have another shape, you are allowed to change it during the game. You are not stuck with being the same shape. I feel like this would be good because it'll keep it an even playing field in case somebody has to move into a line position.
Excellent, excellent. I thought that there's a fine line when it comes to Second Life football where you can tiptoe the line between realism and just asinine extremery. And I think that in previous seasons, it edged over that line and it kind of took a little bit of the fun out of the game. So it's good that we're kind of transitioning back to a more, not necessarily casual, but structured, fun approach.
Keeping it as simple as possible with still having that structure, I think is the goal for everything.
So that moves on to the final pick, but who will also have the first pick of the second round, which is a 1-2 punch. The Wildcats. Now, the Wildcats have Bart Ricker, who's really, really come into his game. He's played many seasons, but really come into his game as of late. And a number of names that have played on squads together over the years. So we've got some veteran core players here coming back together for season 1 of the GFL between Bart Ricker, Ain't Eyes Chant, Cerberus, and Lone Wolf. Uh, I'm
Yeah, these are
sure,
definitely names that we've seen together for many, many, many seasons.
but this
So
is
it's no
also a team that
surprise.
puts in the work when it comes to practice. This is a
Absolutely.
team that really, I mean, we're talking 5 nights a week. Hits the field, works hard. They've had some surprising turnaround moments in their seasons based on the amount of practice and preparation that they've put into coming into these games. And we're talking about a time that many of us veterans are incredibly rusty, coming in after a long stint of nothing. And you've got a team that puts in the work, know each other well, never know what you're going to be able to expect out of the Wildcats, especially moving into getting 2 back-to-back picks. There's other core names in the draftables of players that they've played with before that would be excellent additions to keeping it structured to those work hard regulars and other talents they could bring into the mix to develop a very well-rounded squad.
Yeah, they definitely have a unique opportunity here with being, the last pick of the first round, but the first pick of the second round. They'll be able to grab two players instantly right then, and only the pool that we have, and we're going to transition here just shortly to an in-depth analysis of the available draftees. But with the Wildcats, they've got this unique chance to grab two solid players and fill two positions that they need to be filled, right off the bat without having to worry about, someone grabbing somebody, between there. So having that last and first is very unique, but I think it's going to be very beneficial for them to be able to grab who they need and who they want.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
Alrighty, and with that, that's going to wrap up our draft analysis. Correction, our team analysis. So now we're going to move over to a draft analysis where we're just going to kind of just go through the available players, linemen, the skill players, and just kind of talk about these players. What they're kind of bringing, some surprising names that we see back, some names that we may not have seen at all. Like there are definitely some names on here I do not know who they are. And as we talked about earlier, that is something pretty fantastic to see because I do remember the past couple seasons of the previous league not seeing any new names. And that can be disheartening as you have, older people that have played for a while, they're retiring, they're leaving, they're done playing. So as that tail end shrinks, we're not growing on the other end. So seeing that growth is definitely huge. So, Mike, what are you seeing on the draft that's kind of stands out?
There are so many names, both previous played and new names. Uh, some as I read through, there were some people that declared that they were a running back, which kind of gave me a little tickle inside because running backs haven't really been a viable thing for a while, ever since the stumbling and the sprint systems came into play. But
Right.
like you can kind of see like, hey, they're new because they said, hey, I want to be running back. But I think that as
Right.
time went on, people kind of got away from that run game. Um, but looking at the list, I mean, there's a surprising amount of people that want to be a lineman. Now, it's not that I've never really wanted to. I've always just kind of transitioned more into the skill positions of, hands than line. So it's not a skill set I've developed, but you have spent some time on the line. You're one of the more aware linemen. You've got the movement down, you've got the reflex down, and you know how to move to get those blocks or to break through those lines. So talk a little bit about what you're seeing out of the lineman selections without hyping up that third lineman in that list, that Ham Bokes WR line their character too much.
Right. So line is definitely one of those positions that are severely underrated. But as we have seen in previous leagues, the line will make or break a team. Just how it is in real life. If you don't have a good line, your quarterback is not going to have that time to read his field, find the passes that he needs to get done, and then deliver those passes. So I mean, your line is needs to be solid, and we've seen it to where you've had, they people have built teams around like one solid lineman and things like that, and those work pretty well. But there's always like the weaknesses, and there are these better teams that will always exploit that weakness. And so some of the names that I've seen here, like Cheese Quicksand. Cheese has been line forever. You know, Cheese is a fantastic lineman. I love lining up with him because I know I'm going to have a challenge, and I can't not say this guy's name. First Leviathan resident. Everybody knows Tor. Tor lines up on the line, and Tor's got some pain coming. Like he's sending it. He's going full send, and it's gonna be rough. If he's on the opposite side, life's about to get challenging if he's lining up with you.
Those are
Some other
two
names that I
very,
see.
very solid line choices, but there is
Absolutely.
one that you're missing. That's definitely
I
one of
haven't
those ones
I
that is
haven't
up
got there
there
yet, but I'll
in the
let you talk about
extremes.
him. I'll let you
No,
talk. Go ahead.
it's
Go
not
ahead.
really a him that I'm going to mention. It's a her, Purdy Panther,
Oh, I hadn't
one of
made
the
it down the
top
line
linemen,
yet.
one of the top line women, I guess you could say, in the league. She was actually a lineman for I believe it was were they called the Spartans? She played with the Spartans, and just I remember how frustrated I would get anytime she
Titans.
would catch me into a blockchain because I just couldn't get away from it. I mean, that blockchain was stronger than Bitcoin because you weren't moving.
And
Um,
it's frustrating. And the frustrating part is she's giggling the whole time. And
you
she's
know
giggling
she's
the whole
giggling.
time.
That's my SL sister, so I've heard that giggle frequently. Um,
So,
I kind of got
yeah,
like strong arm adopted my first season of playing into an SL family. Didn't and that's just kind of how it panned out. But she is a dominant force that will get
absolutely.
drafted pretty early on as well.
Yeah, I definitely see her going pretty quickly. Like, the couple names that I've already, and there's still plenty, like Aaron DeFore, phenomenal lineman. Have seen him play it. He's one of those skilled players that can go pretty much anywhere.
And you
Eunice,
can't slouch on Captain America down there. You got Darian
you're
Humphreys,
right, Darian Humphreys, and now that is a name I haven't seen in a while. And that's a name that
definitely an
I'm happy
OG
to see come
SL
back. That's
football
right.
player. I played with him my very first
That's right.
season in organized football with the Warriors. We were both. He was more of a running back position. I was a wide receiver at the time. That was back when running back was viable. But he's moved into a more of a line position. He's very skilled. He has the reflexes as well. I mean, there's some
Absolutely.
really, really big names on the line.
Yeah,
And
we
so
can't forget Dana. You've got Dana, there as a lineman, uppity white girl. She's been right there. If I'm not mistaken, she's been right there with Tor for a very long time. Learning from him and playing with him for that, and that whole time. And then there's a wizard on the list, right? Like,
there is a wizard. There is a wizard. The wizard. Haven't seen him on the line much though. I've seen his hands. There was a time back then, CFL season 1 as well. He would dive. He had animations. It would dive for the ball and catch it. Like it would trigger an animation. It just like these beautiful diving catches into the end zone. The one and only Kobe Varnish, who some of you that have been in the league a while probably have the gesture that I made way back when. Kobe Varnish, you're a wizard, Kobe. I recorded that back in CFL season 1, and it's got disseminated throughout the league at the time. But it's good to see him back, lacing up the cleats,
Absolutely.
playing some more foosball. The skill positions, man, going over the list of players is going to take hours. There's so many skilled secondary receivers, tight
There
ends. I
are.
mean, you've got names on here. You got Troy Briere, who's listed as Ray Norwood. Troy Briere was very, very talented quarterback at the time. He still has receivers, or still has the reflexes for secondary positions, knows where to be, knows how to get there, very skilled. Got that football awareness, football IQ. Him and Cam Cora were the 1-2 tag team punch in
Absolutely.
CFL season 1 on the Ravens,
I
where
remember
Troy was
that.
the quarterback and Cameron was their star receiver. So
And it started out in CFL season 2 with those two paired because that was
they were
the
paired
Seahawks
up.
before CFL.
I was
That
actually
before
with
that
them
season
there on the
ended.
Seahawks. Correct.
Right. That's
Correct.
kind of when I got my start with the Seahawks, and then went to Paul Dev's team. But yeah, it is a mighty, mighty big list. But there's a lot of names that I don't recognize.
You got your Jack Mitchells, you got your Psych Troglodytes, you got Zany on there. Everybody knows
Yep.
Zany. I mean, you've
Biz,
got
you got Biz on there as well, Biz Resident.
the other
I
Cameron,
recognize.
who
Yep, I
claims to
recognize
be
Ellie.
the Cameron. you know,
Well, then you got that weird guy named Michael Slate, number 29, or
Eh.
in the 29 listing.
nobody's going to draft him. He'll be the team's
Right.
water boy.
Yeah, I see Primetime, and there's also another name that I haven't seen in a couple seasons. That's Flo Burner. Everybody knows Flo. So
Everybody knows
he's,
Flo.
he's in the drafting listing.
You got Diego on there. He's a man of little words. Old Diego, doesn't say a lot. I think he's
Yep.
Italian, right? I think he's Italian. And that's why he doesn't say a lot. But man, he can perform. He can perform. He actually owned the Vikings, which absorbed most of the Seahawks in CFL season 2 before the league crumbled.
I remember those issues. Yep. I remember that.
But yeah, there's so many talented old names on here and many new names that have really shown up strong during the pickups leading into the season. I mean, you've got
Mr. Buttersworth, that's Ray.
Mr. Butterworth, yep, Ray. I mean, the list of names, Pat Riddle's on here. He's been playing a long time. There's so many
Dwayne
names.
Viper played with him on the Cowboys.
Dwayne Viper, yeah.
Yep.
Was he a Titan? Was Dwayne a Titan?
I can't remember, and I think I played with him on the Cowboys. It's been a while.
You got
Yeah, he
Carter.
feels like forever ago.
Dwayne
He was one of the
definitely a
Titan
Titan.
squad. Yeah. I could have swore I remember. They were the Titans were a super strong force when it came to having solid line, solid blocking, and extreme running. Like they were insane. They had the shimmy shake legs, and they got it done. But Kay's there as well as as Ray. The talent pool is deep, and I don't know how some of these teams have structured their draft order with so much talent to choose from. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all pans out.
I am definitely looking forward to this draft. I want to see, because there's a method to the madness of how they pick their players and what they're picking and things like that. So it's it's going to be interesting to see all these. And I think for our first show after the draft and everything, is we're definitely going to be having to be talking about these and maybe try and get some not some owners, but some team captains in to kind of talk about their like first and second, round, round picks and things like that. So yeah, like you said, there's a massive amount of talent on this board. So it's one of those, it's gonna be very, very I'm glad I'm not having to select them, because it would be a challenge to try and figure out who we're selecting, and when they're going to select it. You've got to.
Well, we're not going to have to ponder on it too much longer. We've got 14 short minutes until the draft begins. We have an amazing, huge turnout of people both live here at the draft, as well as, over 40 people tuned in over on the live stream on YouTube. So for those of you that are tuned in, thank you so much for showing up. For those of you that weren't here at the beginning, Tom, do you want to quickly hit on the sponsor list one more time? Just
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
over
We'll just
some of our season sponsors.
absolutely.
Starting with
Yeah, we could just
Blueberry,
go through them here. Yep, Blueberry. So we got Fameshed,
we got E. Marie,
Cosmic Dust,
The Boardwalk,
Synergy,
Noche.
Spill the Tea.
It's so hard not to say Noche with like
Right?
flourishes. I'm struggling so hard. Lace Up
What's Radio?
and The Joy Theater. So thank you so much to all of you sponsors for sponsoring this season. And if there's anybody out there that wants to sponsor future seasons, be sure to get with one of the league owners on the information on how to do that. And there will be lots of great information on what our sponsors do, what they sell, and where they sell it over the course of the season.
And downstairs at the welcome booth. And I do believe Veronica is still taking sponsors for this season. So if you're out there listening and have an interest, get in touch with Veronica, and she can get you squared away. So
Yep.
I believe that's going to wrap up our show. There's going to be about a 5 to 10-ish minute intermission between the pre-show and when we come back for the G.F.L. Season 1 draft. So again, my name's Tom Box for Around the Globe. I'm joined by Blaze Vela and Michael Slate, and we'll see you guys in about 10 minutes.